This is your need to know. This is your need to know.
Welcome to our deep dive, everyone. This time, we're tackling chimpanzees.
Oh, chimps. Fascinating creatures.
We've got some really interesting stuff here. Scientific articles, some deep dives on Wikipedia, even some pop culture references. All about chimps. It's going to be fun.
It is. It is. We're going to learn a lot about chimps today, hopefully.
So much to uncover. Their lives, their relationship to us humans. It's incredible.
It really is.
Okay, so how close are we to chimps, really? We always hear about the shared ancestry, but these sources, they make it clear how close that connection is.
It's closer than most people think. I mean, genetically, chimps and bonobos are more closely related to humans than to gorillas.
Whoa, really? That's surprising.
Yeah.
So where do they fit in the whole evolutionary tree then?
Well, both chimps and bonobos belong to the genus Pan. But here's the thing. Humans are in the same tribe, Hominini, and subfamily, Hominini, as chimps.
So we're like family.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
It shows how closely our lineages are intertwined.
Wow. Okay, but when did our lineages split?
Tough to say exactly. DNA sequencing suggests sometime between 5 and 13 million years ago.
That's a pretty big range.
It is. It is. It's hard to pinpoint exactly, especially since we haven't found that many chimp fossils.
Oh, yeah, that's right. One of the articles mentioned the first chimpanzee fossil was only discovered in 2005.
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
Seems odd we found so few chimp fossils compared to human fossils. Why is that?
Well, think about it. Where do most chimps live? West and Central Africa.
Right.
Those areas don't overlap with the major human fossil sites in East Africa.
Oh.
Plus, the environments where chimps live aren't always great for fossil preservation.
So it's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
Exactly.
We've got a lot to learn about their evolutionary history then.
We do.
Let's move on from fossils, though, something a bit more tangible. What about what chimps look like? What are their defining features?
Well, they're made for life in the trees, that's for sure. Long arms, perfect for swinging. Their hands, they have long fingers, short thumbs, perfect for grasping.
And those grasping feet. I've always found those opposable big toes so cool. It's like extra hands.
Exactly. And their build is interesting, too. Both chimps and bonobos are built for that arboreal life. But chimps, they're generally larger and more robust than bonobos. Not as powerfully built as gorillas, though.
So they're right in the middle.
Yeah, right in the middle.
One of the articles mentioned a pretty big difference in lifespans between wild and captive chimps. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Wild chimps, they typically live 15 to 25 years. Captive chimps, though, often reach 30 to 40.
Wow, that idea is significant.
It is. Probably comes down to the challenges of living in the wild.
Like what?
Predation, disease, competition for resources, it can all cut a chimp's life short.
Makes you think about how much stress plays a role, like city life versus the countryside, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But then you've got that case of Little Mama.
Oh, yeah, the captive chimp who lived to be almost 80. Crazy.
Crazy. It makes you think about their potential lifespan when they're free from the pressures of the wild. Like, how much does captivity, despite its limitations, play a role?
So many questions. It's a complicated issue for sure. Makes you think about the trade-offs. Okay, so we've covered their evolution, their looks. Now let's dive into what really sets chimps apart, their social lives.
Now things get interesting. Chimpanzees live in these dynamic groups called fission fusion societies.
The fission fusion.
Yeah, so the group's composition is constantly changing. They form communities, can be as small as 15 members or as large as 150.
Wow.
But they often break off into smaller groups to search for food or travel.
So it's like a big extended family, but you mainly hang out with a few close relatives.
Great analogy. And within these communities, there's a clear social hierarchy. It's a male-dominated society with a ranking system.
But I remember reading they often settle disputes peacefully, right? Without violence.
That's right. They use displays, vocalizations to sort things out. But their eye is a famous example that challenged that view, the Gombe Chimpanzee War.
Oh, yeah. The Gombe War. Unsettling to think about. What triggered that? Was it just territory?
Territory was a factor, but it was probably a combination of things. Competition for resources, power struggles, maybe even the sex ratio was off. It's still a bit of a mystery.
Sounds like a human conflict. So complex. Really makes you rethink those old images of chimps having tea parties.
It does. The Gombe War was a turning point. It showed us they're capable of organized aggression, something we hadn't really grasped before.
So while they can settle things peacefully, there's a darker side. It's a reminder they are wild animals.
Exactly. And we need to remember that when we study them. One of the articles suggested that the artificial feeding stations set up by researchers at Gombe might have actually contributed to the aggression.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, food for thought, right.
It makes you think about how much we can influence their behavior, even with good intentions.
Exactly. We need to be cautious about interfering in their lives.
Well, this has been fascinating. It's clear their social behavior is way more intricate than we imagine.
Oh, for sure.
But let's change gears a bit. Talk about something that truly sets them apart. Their intelligence and tool use.
Now, this is one of my favorite topics. Chimpanzees are remarkable when it comes to tools. We're not just talking cracking nuts or fishing for termites here. They modify tools for specific tasks.
Like the chimps in Senegal, sharpening sticks to spear bush babies. Incredible.
It is. And it's not just for foraging either. They use them in social situations, displaying dominance, attracting mates. It's amazing.
We're so resourceful. But does their intelligence really compare to human intelligence? Do they have a sense of self? Can they understand what others are thinking?
Now, those are the million-dollar questions.
Mm-hmm.
Some scientists believe they have a basic theory of mind, like they can grasp that others have thoughts, intentions different from their own.
Wow, mind-blowing. But there's debate about whether they understand grammar, have complex conversations like us.
Right. Some studies, especially those with chimps learning sign language, show promising results. Others, not so much. It's a puzzle. We're still deciphering it.
But they're far more intelligent than we once thought, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Sadly, that intelligence has led to some ethically questionable situations, like their portrayal in pop culture and their use in research.
It's true. Chimpanzees have often been portrayed as comical figures, childlike companions. It just perpetuates misconceptions about their nature.
Like those old chimpanzee tea parties at the London Zoo. Or even TV shows like Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp.
Exactly. These portrayals, they trivialize their intelligence, reinforce harmful stereotypes, and then there's the use of chimps in invasive research. It raises so many ethical dilemmas.
Especially considering they share almost 99% of their DNA with us, makes you question how we can learn more about them while treating them ethically.
It's a tough balance. And these ethical concerns are made even worse by the threats they face in the wild. Chimpanzees are officially endangered. Their populations are declining.
It's heartbreaking. Habitat loss, poaching, disease, it's a lot to overcome.
It is. And it highlights the urgency for conservation. Protect their habitats, combat illegal wildlife trade, address the root causes of human-wildlife conflict.
Their survival depends on it, and their genetic closeness to humans makes them especially vulnerable to human diseases, too.
That's right. Ebola outbreaks have devastated entire chimp communities. It's a reminder that conservation needs to be holistic. We need to consider the health and well-being of both humans and chimps.
It's complex, but we can't ignore it. Now, before we move on, I wanted to touch on the Chimpanzee Genome Project. We mentioned it briefly, but I'm curious, what did it reveal about the similarities and differences between human and chimp DNA?
Oh, the Chimpanzee Genome Project, that was groundbreaking. It confirmed just how close we are. Humans and chimps share about 98.8% of their DNA, but it also showed us key differences that have shaped our distinct evolutionary paths.
What kind of differences?
Well, one of the biggest findings was identifying genes involved in brain development, genes that evolved much faster in humans than in chimps.
Ah, so that played a role in our brain expansion, our cognitive abilities.
Most likely, yeah. Even small genetic tweaks can make a huge difference in evolution.
Incredible. Were there any other interesting discoveries?
Oh, yeah. Genes related to immune system function. They've undergone big changes in both humans and chimps. Probably reflects adaptations to different disease environments over millions of years.
So fascinating how much we can learn about ourselves by studying our closest primate relatives. It's like their genome is a mirror, reflecting our shared history and the unique paths we've taken.
It really is. The Chimpanzee Genome Project opened up a whole new world of understanding. Gives us valuable insights into human uniqueness, indeed, the shared tapestry that connects us to all life.
Makes you wonder, if we're genetically similar, what does that say about human nature? And with all the threats they face, what's our responsibility to protect them? We'll leave those questions for our listeners to ponder.
Food for thought indeed.
This is your need to know. This is
That chimpanzee genome project, it also revealed something interesting about the diseases that affect chimpanzees. Turns out they share about 50% of their parasite and microbe species with humans.
50%? That's actually lower than I would guess, considering how much DNA we have in common.
Right, you'd think so.
Yeah.
But it makes sense when you think about our different lifestyles, and environments. Humans, we eat all sorts of things, we travel all over, we've picked up all kinds of parasites. Chimps, on the other hand, they have a more specialized diet. They're limited to certain areas of Africa.
So our different paths, they've led to different microscopic hitchhikers, I guess.
Exactly.
But I'm guessing there are still some overlaps.
Oh, absolutely. The chimpanzee louse, for example. It's a close relative of the human body louse. Shows how parasites evolve alongside their hosts. It's a tiny reflection of our shared history.
A bit creepy, but fascinating too. But on a more serious note, this shared susceptibility to diseases, it has big implications for chimp conservation, right? Especially with all the human activity encroaching on their habitats.
Exactly. The closer we get, the higher the risk of spreading diseases between us. It's a big worry for conservationists.
It really emphasizes the need for that holistic approach to conservation, considering both ecological and health needs for chimps and humans. Okay, switching gears a bit, one of the sources really went into chimp warfare, which is kind of hard to imagine when you think about them.
It is. It challenges our perceptions. Like we said earlier, the Gombe Chimpanzee War. It was a stark reminder that there's that darker side to them.
Do researchers know what sparked it? Was it just a fight for territory?
Territory was definitely a big part of it, but probably not the whole story. Researchers think it was a combination of things. Resource scarcity, power struggles between the males, maybe even that skewed sex ratio we mentioned before.
So many factors. It sounds almost like, well, a human conflict, all those layers.
The parallels are definitely there. Researchers saw them engaging in strategic patrols, ambushes, even coordinated attacks.
It's pretty far from the peaceful image we used to have.
It is. It is.
It makes you wonder, though, those feeding stations set up by researchers at Gombe, could they have made the conflict worse? One of the sources mentioned that.
It's a possibility. I mean, those feeding stations are meant to make observation easier, but they can mess with natural behaviors. Intensify competition. We have to be careful about interfering, even with good intentions.
Right, unintended consequences and all that.
Exactly.
So the Gombe War, it gave us valuable insights, but it also raises questions about our impact on them.
For sure.
It seems like the more we learn about chimps, the more complex they become.
Absolutely. Cooperation, competition, altruism, aggression, it's all there. It's fascinating and it's challenging to study. We're really just scratching the surface.
One thing that surprised me was how those low-ranking males, they sometimes switch sides during disputes between the dominant individuals. Almost seems Machiavellian. What's the thinking there?
It's all about strategy. They actually benefit from an unstable hierarchy, it seems. Creates opportunities to move up the ladder.
So they're playing the long game.
Exactly. Using the chaos to their advantage shows that their social hierarchies, they're not rigid, they're fluid. Alliances are always shifting.
It's like our own societies, always evolving, driven by cooperation and competition. Let's talk about communication. How do they convey information, emotions, all that?
Oh, they have a surprising number of ways to communicate. Vocalizations, facial expressions, gestures, even body postures.
One of the sources mentioned the pant hoot. It seems pretty important. Can you describe it?
Imagine this.
Yeah.
Rhythmic pants followed by a loud hoot. That's the pant hoot.
Okay.
It's their most iconic call, and they use it for so much. Express emotions, excitement, aggression, even as a long-distance call to stay in touch.
Wow, so much packed into a few grunts and hoots. But do they have anything resembling language? Can they form sentences, have conversations like us?
That's the EE question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Been debated for ages. They can't produce human speech, not with their vocal cords. But they've shown an amazing ability to learn symbolic communication.
Like Washoe, the chimp who learned sign language.
Exactly. Washoe was a game changer.
Yeah.
Learning hundreds of signs, even teaching some to other chimps. It really opened our eyes to animal intelligence.
But there's still that debate, right, about whether they truly grasp grammar, initiate conversations like us.
That's true. They can associate symbols with meaning, but it's not clear if they have the same level of understanding. It's a complex area of research.
It's a fascinating puzzle, for sure. It makes you think about the nature of language itself.
It does, it does.
Okay, let's move on to another aspect of their behavior, hunting. They're not just vegetarians, right?
Not at all. They're actually pretty skilled hunters. Their cooperative strategies are really impressive. Their main prey is small to medium-sized mammals, and they seem to love those red Clispas monkeys.
One of the sources described their hunts in detail. It's amazing how coordinated they are. They have different chimps taking on specific roles, like a team.
It's remarkable. You've got drivers chasing the prey, blockers cutting off escape routes, and ambushers lying in wait.
It's like a military operation.
Right. They've got the planning, the communication, the teamwork, all the essentials.
And it's not just about survival either, right? Hunting plays a social role, too.
Absolutely. Sharing the meat after a successful hunt, that's a big social event. Dominance, hierarchies, alliances, mating strategies, it all comes into play.
It's not just about filling their stomachs.
Nope. It's about those relationships within the group.
One activity, so many layers. It reveals so much about them, their intelligence, their social structures.
It does. It highlights that connection between behavior, ecology, and evolution.
It's tragic, then, that these creatures are facing such threats. We've talked about habitat loss, poaching, but what about disease? How are they coping with outbreaks?
Sadly, disease outbreaks can be devastating. Their genetic similarity to humans, well, it makes them susceptible to many of the same things WE get. Ebola, for example, it's wiped out entire populations.
One of the sources described the impact of Ebola on central chimpanzees. It was just heartbreaking.
It was a reminder of how fragile they are, especially populations with limited genetic diversity.
Makes conservation even more challenging.
It does.
So we need a multi-pronged approach, right? Habitat loss, poaching, and disease prevention.
Absolutely. Protecting them requires a strategy that considers everything, their ecology, their social needs, their health. It's a huge challenge, but we can't afford to fail. We have to protect them.
We do. Okay, we've talked a lot about the research on chimps, but what about how they're portrayed in popular culture? We mentioned those stereotypical depictions, but are there any more nuanced representations out there?
There are, definitely. I mean, they've often been typecast as, clowns or sidekicks, but some portrayals dig a little deeper.
Oh, like what?
Well, the character of Caesar in the Planet of the Apes movies. Sure, it's sci-fi, but he's portrayed as sentient, intelligent, a leader. It makes you think about our relationship with other primates.
It does. Raises questions about intelligence, sentience, what it means to be a person.
Exactly. And you see similar themes in literature, too. Robert A. Heinlein's short story, Jerry Was a Man, it explores the ethical questions of a genetically enhanced chimpanzee fighting for better treatment.
Science fiction, it can really make us think about these issues, huh? Reflect our anxieties.
It can. Those nuanced portrayals, even though they're fictional, they can spark important conversations.
It's a good reminder that chimps, all animals really, they're more than just subjects of study. They're individuals with personalities, experiences.
And stories.
Yeah, stories.
By listening to those stories, through research, through creative interpretations, we gain a deeper appreciation for the natural world.
It's a good reminder that we're all connected, We share a common heritage and a responsibility to care for the planet.
We do. Now, we've talked about the darker side of chimpanzee behavior, the Gombe War, the aggression, but I want to hear about the positive stuff. Cooperation, altruism. What are some examples of that?
Oh, there are plenty. They're incredibly social. Their lives are full of heartwarming examples of cooperation, empathy, mutual grooming, for one. It's not just about hygiene, it strengthens bonds. It's nice to know that they're not always driven by self-interest.
Right. It's like us, a blend of cooperation and competition. But their capacity for empathy, it really shines through.
It's heartwarming. Okay, we've discussed the research extensively, but I'm curious about their problem-solving abilities. How do they approach challenges, find solutions?
They are remarkable problem solvers, really adaptable. One of the sources talked about a classic study by Wolfgang Kohler. He watched chimpanzees figuring out how to get bananas that were out of reach.
Oh, I remember that one. They stacked boxes to make a ladder.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of their ability to think things through, come up with solutions. Kohler said they weren't just randomly doing stuff. They had an aha moment, a sudden insight.
It's like they were little engineers.
They can use tools, manipulate objects, they even understand cause and effect. Their problem-solving rivals that of young human children.
Wow. But are there limits to their abilities? Challenges they struggle with?
That's a good question. They are resourceful, but they do seem to have trouble with certain types of abstract reasoning, like tasks that require understanding hierarchy or figuring out someone else's intentions.
So practical problem solving they're great at, but abstract thought, maybe not so much.
It's an area of ongoing research, still lots to learn.
It's amazing how much we still don't know about them.
It is. Every new study gives us a new piece of the puzzle.
We've talked about the many threats they face. One of the sources had this really alarming statistic. Chimpanzee populations have dropped from an estimated 1 million in the early 1900s to somewhere between 172,700 and 299,700 today.
It's a huge decline. It really emphasizes the urgency for conservation. Protecting their habitats, combating the illegal wildlife trade. It all needs to happen.
It's a big challenge, but we have to face it.
We do. The survival of chimpanzees, it depends on us, on our ability to live sustainably, to respect the interconnectedness of life.
It's a call to action, for sure. We have a moral obligation to protect them.
We do. Chimpanzees, with their intelligence, their social complexity, they hold a special place. Their survival is a testament to our own humanity and our commitment to preserving biodiversity.
It's a responsibility we need to embrace, with both urgency and hope. We need to work together, create a future where chimps can thrive alongside us.
It's a vision worth striving for, a future where the forests of Africa echo with their pant hoots.
Now, we've explored a lot, but what would you say is the most important takeaway for our listeners? What do we want them to remember about chimpanzees?
That's a great question. I think the biggest takeaway is this. Chimpanzees are far more complex than we give them credit for. They're not caricatures, they're not just lab subjects. They're intelligent, social, with rich inner lives, capable of great compassion and great violence.
It's a reminder that we need to approach them, all animals really, with respect, humility, a willingness to learn.
Exactly. By recognizing their complexity, their intelligence, their vulnerability, we understand our own place in the natural world better and our responsibilities.
It's a message that resonates, for sure. Reminds us that we're all connected. We share a common heritage, a common destiny.
We do. Studying chimpanzees, it's not just about understanding another species. It's about understanding ourselves, our place in the web of life, our responsibility to be good stewards of this planet.
It's a powerful message. We hope it'll inspire our listeners to learn more, to support conservation efforts, and to approach all living creatures with respect and wonder.
It's a vision worth sharing, a vision of a world where humans and chimpanzees, all life really, can thrive together in harmony.
Well, this has been a truly enlightening deep dive. We've uncovered fascinating facts, challenged our assumptions, and hopefully sparked a sense of wonder and concern for these incredible creatures.
It's been a journey of discovery. The natural world is full of endless fascination and complexity.
We hope you'll join us again for another deep dive into the mysteries and marvels of our planet.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
We've really gone deep into the chimpanzee world, haven't we? Evolution, social dynamics, the threats they face. It's been amazing.
Yeah, it really has. And we've barely scratched the surface. There's so much more to these fascinating creatures.
I know, right? Speaking of fascinating, let's talk more about their intelligence. We've covered tools, hunting, communication, but what about their understanding of numbers? Can chimps count? Like, do they know how many bananas they've got stashed away?
You'd be surprised. Chimps actually have a pretty decent grasp of numbers. Studies show they can distinguish between quantities, even do some basic arithmetic.
No way, really.
Yeah. One study even had them using symbols to represent numbers, and they could add them up.
Wow, so they can add.
Yep, and not just simple stuff. They could handle larger quantities too. Their number skills are way better than we thought.
That's incredible, but why would they need that in the wild? It's not like they're balancing a checkbook.
Well, think about it. They need to know how many are in their group, how much food is around, make decisions when they're hunting. Having a sense of number helps with all of that.
Makes sense. It's all about survival.
Exactly. It shows how intelligence, behavior, and survival are all linked. It's not just about brain size. It's about how they use it to solve problems.
We have to remember to look beyond our human-centered view of intelligence.
Absolutely. The natural world is full of different kinds of intelligence.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey. We've learned so much about chimpanzees, their evolution, their social lives, their intelligence, the threats they face.
It really has been. Chimpanzees are such a special part of life on Earth.
I'm leaving with a sense of awe, a real appreciation for the diversity of life on our planet. We're not alone, you know. We're all connected.
We are, and we have a responsibility to protect these creatures and the places they live. The future of chimps and our planet. It depends on us.
It's a big responsibility, but it also gives us hope. We have the power to choose a better path, a more sustainable future for everyone.
That's the goal, isn't it? A future where chimps can thrive in the wild, where their intelligence and resilience can continue to inspire us.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of chimpanzees. We hope you've learned something new and that you'll join us again for another deep dive into the wonders of our world.
Until next time, keep exploring.
This is your need to know. City lights, they flicker, burn. Corners where the shadows turn. Whispers rise from underground. Echoes in the silence found. Feral eyes in the night, chasing dreams out of sight. Heartbeat pounding wild and free in the night's wild symphony. Beats unleashed in the night, roaming through the dark out of sight. In the chaos, feeling alive. In this jungle, we survive. Pavement pounding beat of drums, feet that follow where it comes. Wind that howls through concrete canyons. Rhythms of a city's anthems. Raw and untamed fire inside. Electric pulse, nowhere to hide. Crimson streets, a savage dance. In the danger, take a chance. Beats unleashed in the night, roaming through the dark out of sight. In the chaos, feeling alive. In this jungle, we survive. We survive. We survive. Labyrinth, labyrinth of urban wild. Lost and found, always beguiled. Heat that rises, breath of flame. Silent cries, forgotten names. Feral eyes in the night, chasing dreams out of sight. Heartbeat pounding wild and free in the night's wild symphony. Beasts unleashed in the night, roaming through the dark out of sight. In the chaos, feeling alive. In this jungle, we survive. Glimmer of a fleeting chance, moving shadows, reckless dance. pulse that quickens hunger grow. In the twilight tension flows. Night descends, the hunt begins. Whispers on the city's wind.